The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Moscow for a bilateral summit with President Putin. It's Mr. Modi's first visit since Russia's war with Ukraine began more than 2 years ago. Well, our Russia editor Steve Rosenberg told us what we can expect from this visit.
Well, I think it's certainly very important for Vladimir Putin. It gives him another opportunity to claim that attempts by the West to isolate Russia over the war in Ukraine have failed. You know, the Kremlin doesn't miss an opportunity to do that. Remember last month, Vladimir Putin was in North Korea and then Vietnam. Last week he was in Kazakhstan, meeting the leaders of China and Turkey and Qatar. Last Friday, you had the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban flying to Moscow for talks with Vladimir Putin. And today you have the leader of the most populous nation in the world and one of the world's fastest growing economies, India, flying to Moscow for talks with Vladimir Putin. He'll sit down at the negotiating table, do deals with Vladimir Putin, and that allows the Kremlin to say, basically, isolation, what isolation? So important for Vladimir Putin. I think trade, boosting economic ties are going to be very high up on the agenda. This is an India-Russia summit which has been held for many years now, but there has been a break. And the fact that the summit is back on now, I think, is a reflection of the fact that both sides, both countries believe it's important, it's in their interests to boost trade. We know that already Russia is selling a lot of oil, high volumes of oil, to India at a discount because Russia's access to Western markets is restricted because of sanctions. So that's important as far as Russia goes and has been very profitable for India. But I think India will look now to boost its exports to the Russian market.
And we're just hearing, actually, you mentioned Viktor Orban there, the Hungarian Prime Minister. We've heard from the Reuters news agency that he will participate in the NATO summit this week. It seems that Putin is keen to show that there are alliances, that this visit today and this one last week, that I guess there is an isolation there for Russia.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, Viktor Orban was in Moscow on Friday. We were in the Kremlin when he was holding talks with Vladimir Putin. And, watching the coverage in the state media here, the reports were keen to point out that Russia is not isolated, that you have the leader of a country, Hungary, which has just taken over the 6-month rotating presidency of the European Union, flying to Moscow without his EU hat on, much to the consternation of EU leaders, and holding talks on the war in Ukraine with Vladimir Putin. Now, Viktor Orban popped up in Beijing today, so he's on what he calls a peace mission. Whether this is going to produce anything concrete, we'll just have to wait and see.